Fancade, a game about helping a funny yellow guy find his way home. A game with skill-based gameplay. A game about games. And you can make your own. You see, I've been using this app for quite some time. As you can see, look at this, is my first ever game I made 2 years ago. It sucks. But we all do start somewhere, right? Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna teach you how to make a platformer. The first step I chose to do was make my sprites. This isn't the best option, you should probably do the code first, but for now, if you want to follow along, just go ahead and make a player, a goal, and a floor block. After you finish, go ahead and throw away the goal as we don't need it right now, and make a platform for your player. You may notice that after you press the play button, the player will just float there. It's because we haven't set the physics of the player yet. So go ahead, stop the simulation, and tap on the player. At the bottom of your hotbar, you will see a small gear icon, and from there you can turn on physics. However, once you press the play button, the player still floats there. This is because the gravity is set to -9.8 on the y-axis. However, we want the player to fall on the z-axis. So go ahead and open the player up, and go into your menu, and grab a set gravity, and a vector block. Once you have those blocks, put the set gravity block inside of the player, and right next to that green port, put the vector block, and put -10 on the z-axis. After you've done that, the player should fall down. Once you've done this, you may notice after you close the player and put it on the platform, the player and the platform just become one and start falling together. This is because we haven't removed the glue from the player. So go ahead and edit the player and go to that little brick icon, and from there you can remove the glue, which is indicated by those little Lego bits. I don't know. And after you've done this, once you put the player back on the platform, they shouldn't merge into the same entity. After you've done this, go into your inventory and grab all of the blocks that I do, except for joystick, you don't need that. After you've grabbed all the blocks, make sure to store your player into an object variable. You can name this variable whatever you want. I chose to name it player, but make sure that you make your variable global, and I will explain why this is necessary later. After you've done this, grab a button block and a set velocity block. In that object port, put the player variable, and in the vector port, you may be tempted to just put a vector there to set the velocity, but that is not what you want to do. This is because we want to only edit the player's x velocity. We're going to use a break vector to break the player's velocity into 3 numbers, and we're going to input the x and y ports into the make vector block, and in the last port we're going to put the number 5. If you go ahead and playtest, you can see that after you press the button, the player moves and we fall off the edge. Now we're going to copy and paste the code and invert the 5 so that this one does the opposite of last. However, with this setup, the player's controls are inverted, so we can go ahead and change them back. After that's done, we're going to move all of the code down a bit to make room for our next thing. We're going to use a truth variable and set it to false, and name it whatever you want. This can control whether the player is touching the screen. And at the end of every set velocity block, we're going to put that variable again and set it to true. And after that's done, grab an if block, and at the end of it, put that variable. And if that variable is true, we're going to set the player's velocity to its current velocity times whatever number you want, usually a number below 0, on the x-axis. Once that's done, you can go ahead and play test, and what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that the player doesn't go flying off every time you press a button. And if this feels too strong for you, you can go ahead and change the number to whatever you want. Usually higher numbers have weaker effects, and lower numbers have stronger effects. After that's done, move some of the code down to make room for the jump button, connect it to the rest of the buttons, and grab all the blocks that I do. After you've done that, place down a raycast block and get a get position block and put it into the from port. Get an add vector, add the get position plus negative 0.55 on that z-axis, and grab an if condition to check if the raycast is hitting something. Grab a set velocity for the player, break the player's velocity, and set the z port to 7. If you were able to follow along with all of this, congratulations, you have a basic platformer, although it does have no goal. As an extra precaution, go into the physics tab, grab a set locked block, and set the player's lock to what I put it as. This is going to make sure that the player doesn't discover the third dimension and fall from there. After that is done, you can go ahead and close the player and bring back out the goal block and open it, because now we're going to work on that. Of course, make sure to remove the glue so that it works. And you know the drill, grab all the blocks that I do here. Once you have all the blocks that I do, have a raycast go from the position of the goal to its position plus 1 on the x value. You don't have to use a variable for the goal, but if you want to, you can. And finally, grab an if block, an equal object block that checks if the hit object equals the player, and if it does, win. And this here is why you need the variable to be global. If it is not global, the raycast cannot detect the player because the variable is stored inside of the player itself. So after you're done playtesting, you can go inside of the player and set the variable to global. Just a quick side note, you can tell that a variable is global if it has a $sign at the front. As soon as the player variable is set to global, the goal should now work. At this point, you may realize that if you create a level and press the play button, the camera is wherever you had it last. So now we're going to open the player and work on the camera. So now that we've acknowledged this, just go ahead and grab all the blocks that I do. Once you have all the blocks that I do, put down the set camera block. In the position value, set it to the position of the player. In the rotation value, set it to 90 on the x-axis, which is the first axis. And in the zoom, set it to whatever you feel comfortable with. I set it to 75. Now, after a while of playing, you may notice that if you fall through the cracks, you keep falling forever. So there should probably be a lose condition for this. Go ahead and make room for the next thing. And finally, follow along with what I do. Grab a get position, break its vector, and we want to compare its z value, and if it's less than 0, we're going to lose. So go into the inventory, grab a less than block, put an if condition next to it, and that port right there we don't have to put any number for because it's set to 0 by default. So we can input a lose block and set the delay. And if you playtest, you can see that the player loses if they fall. And with that, congratulations, you've made a fully functioning platformer game. You can go ahead and make your own levels and publish it. Here are a few quick looks at all of the code we've written, just so you can compare with yours to see if you've made any mistakes. And with that, that's it with this tutorial. Goodbye.